Hi, this is Jared from Shunome, and today I want to do a quick video on the wall tool. I'll do my best to keep this as short as possible, but sometimes it's hard to do that with ARCHICAD videos. So first, let's go to Tools and open up the wall tool. And I want to first look at these three commands: rotated box, box, and chain walls. So let's select the chain command and pretend that we are drawing a building. Okay. There we go, we've drawn a building. Now, you'll notice each wall is individual, which makes sense. That's how ARCHICAD works. Let's go to grouping and turn on auto group. Now, let's go and create that roughly same shape. Now, if we select that, you'll see the walls are grouped. This is awesome because it means anytime you use the wall command to create a chain of walls or any other tool that can do this, like the beam tool, the elements will be created and grouped. So let's actually go to the beam tool and I'll show you. Let's hold down the space bar, click on that, and there we have. I've just created a bunch of beams and they're all automatically grouped. Huge time saver, something I always have on, something you should always have on. But let's move on. The next thing I want to talk about is, well, it's these walls and what's going on here. Okay. There is, up here in the wall tool, a couple ways to make walls. You can make straight walls, curved walls, trapezoid walls, and polygonal walls, so any shape you want. Trapezoid is kind of cool because you can make walls that, in plan, have different widths at the start and the end. I rarely use that, but where I do use it often is to create walls that are odd sizes and the same size at both ends. So here's a regular wall, and I can make it, instead of 11 1/8 inches, I can make it 18 inches. So you can see I've just basically made the insulation space larger. Let's do it to these guys too, and then we'll talk about some quirks. Okay, these are all now 18-inch thick walls, and you see that they grew in different ways. This one, only the stud space is the core. This one, everything in the composite is set to core, and this one, some of the stuff is set to core. And you'll notice that depending on what's what, a different skin grew. So let's look at what's happening. Let's go to sum equals core. We notice that only the brick and the airspace are core, and the airspace got thicker. So if we go and change the sheathing to core, we'll see what's going on. Hit OK, and I'll tell you, the airspace will go back to its original thickness, and the plywood sheathing will now become fat. There we go. Wall stayed the same size because it's 18 inches, but because this is now part of the sheathing, or this is now part of the core, it became thick. What's happening is the lowermost skin in this list that is core is what gets thickened. So just something to be aware of. Now you'll notice that this insulation isn't stretching to match the new skin thickness, which is unfortunate. But in general, this isn't where I use this technique. It comes into play mostly in existing conditions where you have one-off strange thickness walls. Here's one that's really fat, here's one that's really skinny. If we select this, you can look at my composite. It says interior wall existing thin. What I've done is I've created a composite for all the weird thin walls in this project. This project happens to be my house. And typically, it's super thin. It looks like it's 1.5 inches. So basically the thinnest I would ever have a stud wall. And I can just turn it to trapezoid and make it whatever the proper thickness needs to be. Really nice. But now let's take one of these walls and let's put a door in it, because this is one quirk that's worth knowing. So here's my bifold door I'm trying to put in it. You see, no matter where I go, the little sun icon isn't shifting. It's always staying at the top. What this is telling me is that there's a defined inside and outside for the trapezoid wall. Whereas we, let's take this wall, make it a regular trapezoid. Now we'll put in this bifold door. Sorry, fat fingers. You can see that I can move it back and forth. So why this matters is if you're placing an exterior window or door on a trapezoid wall, you got to make sure that the outside is the outside and the inside is the inside. And if there's a problem, you might have to use a different composite. The other place this gets into an issue is if you want, say, this to be the outside and this to be the inside of this wall, you might have to flip where the reference line is to get that to work. Why that matters is if you're doing a schedule and I want this door to open from this space into this space, this wall might need to be flipped back and forth. If you have questions, ask me in the comments. It's really only ever going to come into play for placing walls and exterior, or placing doors and windows and exterior walls that are trapezoids, and placing interior doors or windows into trapezoid walls on the interior where you're doing schedules that are that have doors that have a to and a from zone. Let me see if I can get to one of those to show you an example. This is where interior, I'm not going to try to mess it with it. That'll be for another video. Anyways, that's trapezoid walls. The last bit I want to talk about is polygon walls. This is another underutilized thing. Sometimes you're doing old masonry buildings and you have to create shapes that are wonky. You can do it with columns, say complex profile columns, but you can also do it with just polygon walls. The caveat or the thing to be aware of is when you place elements, say a column or a polygon wall with a regular wall, fills might not line up because this fill is going along the skin where this one is following the project origin, and this one has its own special relationship to the column itself. Now, if you're doing this and you need a quick workaround, simple enough to use graphic overrides and change everything to, say, poche or gray. Or if you don't want to do that, you just use irregular and then you change this building material to something that's doesn't have direction. It's just a solid color. I think this is long enough. So there's some techniques on walls. I hope you learned something. And yeah, I highly recommend using the trapezoid wall to create equal thickness walls that are of an unusual thickness. Thank you very much.